You're taking a live look at the Queen City here in Queens Gate, looking towards downtown. You kind of see just a little bit of a haze out there on the horizon, maybe even feeling the air getting a little bit on the smoky side. Yeah, we got a bit of wildfire smoke out there to accompany you on your Friday afternoon plans. And I mean a little bit, because air quality is just taking a little bit of a hit. Instead of it being good or green, it is moderate or yellow. But areas north of Cincinnati, which is closer to Canada, of course, where these fires are happening, and we are seeing the oranges and the reds slowly but surely creep back here into the lower Ohio Valley in spots as far as this wildfire smoke goes. We've seen worse in the past, but we just want to give you that first alert that if you are experiencing any cardiovascular illness or respiratory illness, you would be underneath that unhealthy for some category. You guys would be the sum. So if we see this drop a little bit more, or at least the air quality get worse, we will let you know coming up at 3 and 4 o'clock this afternoon as new information starts to come back in. But for the rest of us, very calm day, especially compared to yesterday, in which we had some showers and storms trying to come into the mix for those afternoon plans. Most of that was geared towards the morning, and then we start to see that cooler air coming in from behind. And now we're sitting in that cooler air that many of us just now getting into the low 70s. Wilmington, Batesville, Richmond up near Fayette County, Indiana. That's where we've just seen the low 70s now at noon this afternoon. But warm spots, warmish spots. Butler County at 76 and Middletown at 75 degrees. Now, clouds and radar not picking up on a whole lot, just some clouds south and east of Cincinnati towards parts of Adams and Brown County here in Ohio, and then down farther south just in general, where we've seen that cold front kick through a little bit later, but no rain seen with this. As you can see, we're just tracking a mostly sunny, comfortable day on tap, and it extends well into that first alert extended forecast as well. So what to expect for the rest of the day today, low 80s. And that's if we get there. I think most of us are going to struggle to get there just with those northerly winds kicking on in too high gear. You'll notice that breeze, and I'll show you what it looks like here in just a second too. But just on the heels of that cold front, as high pressure starts to build back in, we see more sunny skies. We'll notice that breeze today, and more importantly, for anyone that's planning outdoor activities, low humidity. So that means no excruciating heat this weekend, and also no rain this weekend as well. The rest of the day today looks outstanding. I want to give you that first alert about the high temperatures over the next 7 days, because as much as we talk about how things have changed towards the cooler side of the spectrum for the first day of August and the first weekend of August, it's not long before we return to normal summer heat. And so Monday is kind of that day in which we're exchanging dry air for more humid air. It's normal humid air for this time of year. We do have just naturally humid air coming into the tri-state. So Monday, 83 will feel closer to the upper 80s. And of course, as we see heat build throughout the week next week, you will notice that humidity also playing a factor too. So don't get too comfortable. I mentioned this on my Facebook page, but we had 15 days, 90-degree days in Cincinnati so far this year. This time last year, we were at 16, and we ended up topping out, I believe, at 37 days, either 34 or 37. It's one of the two. But period, point blank, we have plenty of summer to get through. And even here in the Ohio Valley, summer extends into fall a little bit as well. It's very normal for that to happen. Let's talk about those winds, because you definitely notice them stepping out the door this afternoon. And that's just with the heat of the day, and of course on the heels of that cold front, which cold it is and cooler it was. Temperatures have now dropped a good 15-degree difference from this time yesterday. But wind speeds, these are not the gusts, the speeds at CVG 21 sustained winds that direction, and then wind gusts, you'll see here up to about 30 miles per hour. And we're not even in the heat of the day. We might see some stronger wind gusts than this. Would not be surprised. Again, it's pulling in cooler air from the north. These are winds from the north. So it's coming off of the lakes, but it's also bringing in that smoke and that unhealthy air quality, especially for areas north of Cincinnati, but here in Cincinnati as well. So temperatures tonight with That cooler, that drier air pulling in from the north, you're going to notice temperatures dropping into the 50s. We had some of that this morning, but here in Cincinnati and areas south of Cincinnati, it's more likely that you'll encounter a cooler morning tomorrow compared to today with those mostly clear skies. Tomorrow itself, there's a lot going on in Cincinnati. There's always a lot going on here in the Queen City, and I would know the weekends, the last few weekends have been hot, they've been steamy, they've been humid, they've been stormy. Some of those weekends, we actually did get some severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. This weekend is anything but that. This weekend is looking great to be outside. Kings Island, the zoo, I expect it's going to be packed. So just prepare for that. But at least the weather is not going to be impacting those plans. So Kings Island tomorrow, low 70s by the lunchtime hour, and then the heat of the day, 83 is what we're going to be forecasting. We might notice some areas dropping into the 50s overnight tonight, and even for overnight into Sunday too, with that dry air in place. But looking here at the muggy meter, it's not elongated relief from the seasonable heat and humidity. Like I mentioned, it's a semi-quick turnaround, not exactly a snap, but at least we get a good weekend out of this comfortable air. And then Monday comes in, and that's when we see the dew points climbing back above 60 degrees in the afternoons, and then they'll stay that way through much of the week next week. I do want to show you what the cloud cover looks like over the next few days, because you'll notice a little bit more clouds coming in on Sunday as we see those southerly winds kicking in. But today, mostly sunny for those afternoon plans. Definitely patio-worthy weather if you've got dinner plans, or brunch plans tomorrow, same sort of deal with temperatures in the low 70s by about the mid-morning. And then Saturday afternoon, rinse and repeat, mostly sunny and comfortable for anything and everything outside. And then Sunday, here's the clouds that I'm talking about. You might notice a bit of heavier air coming on in, especially south of the Ohio River, but generally speaking, still looks pretty quiet. We might see an isolated or stray shower or two just with that surge of humidity from the south, but overall not a huge impact in that department. In fact, in the 7-day forecast, which I'll show you here in just a few minutes, we're not going to see much rain at all over the next 7 days. You'll be lucky if you get some of those rain showers that we're forecasting for the midweek next week, but of course we'll let you know should anything change. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this weekend's forecast, because I've got a lot of graphics for it and there's just a lot going on. And I met with someone yesterday over Zoom who's actually helping out with Paddle Fest, and he was like, I've got a great idea for you, and we would love it if you guys could provide more detailed forecasts on the river conditions. And usually we do that only when flooding poses a risk, but we're in the time of year where flooding doesn't need to pose a risk. It can be the water temps, it can be the air temps, it can be the river speeds. So thank you so much, Curtis, for the idea. He and I talked yesterday. And I went ahead and put this graphic together to give you guys an idea of what things are going to look like for Paddle Fest, both on and off the river. Air temps are going to be into the mid-70s by noon. The afternoon highs are in the middle to low 80s. Very comfortable air, so not having to factor in any heat indices. We're going to hopefully put that word away for a bit. And then water temps are in the middle 80s for this time of year. And then the river speeds, as we haven't really seen a lot of rain, and we won't see a lot of rain over the next 24 hours. We won't see any rain. Really, river speeds are very slow, very low impact in that department is the good news for any of you guys that are heading out to Paddle Fest. Please enjoy it and enjoy the weather while you can, because yeah, seasonal heat does return to the forecast. You'll see it here in your 7-day forecast. By Monday, we are still seeing temps in the low 80s, but the feels like temperatures, or the heat indices, that fun word, it's going to be closer to the upper 80s once we see that humidity coming into place. You don't see it this weekend. In fact, very dry air is in place right now, and so temperatures with that northerly wind in the low 80s for this afternoon. We got early morning temps in the upper 50s, some of us into the mid 50s. I would not be surprised if we drop that low for Saturday morning, just because it's easier to change the temperature of dry air. The afternoon, comfy sunshine, a few clouds there on Sunday, 83 following a morning in the low 60s, upper 50s once again. Cool thing about the FC Cincinnati match is on Sunday is that the first kick, I'm talking baseball, kickoff for the first game there on Sunday is at 5:30, but I'm assuming that if you get tickets for the first game, you also get it for the second. We got 2 games that evening, which is really cool. You'll get your bang for your buck and definitely want to cheer on the home team there. Monday, partly cloudy. This isn't showing you what the heat index is, but it's going to be closer to the middle and upper 80s. Again, heavier air comes into place. There's a bug in here. Heavier air comes into place Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday, that is our next best, quotes, best chance for some showers in the tri-state. And I say with quotes because it's a very slim storm chance there towards the afternoon. That's if you get it. Again, most of us are still looking dry through that time. And then Wednesday, Thursday, both of those days looking dry, looking more sunny than not, and temperatures in the 80s with heat indexes knocking on the door of 90 degrees to wrap up next work week. But perhaps if you are looking forward to a pretty busy week, the weather's not going to be too impactful. It's just you don't want to be caught off guard when you encounter those 90-degree heat indexes one more time before we settle into a more fall-like pattern. But that won't be for many weeks. Remember, we're still in summer. It's hard to believe it once we have a couple days or a few days with more September-like temperatures. All right, we'll see if we have any questions coming on in this afternoon. JD is asking how I'm doing today. I'm doing well, thank you. I hope you're doing well too. Good morning, Michael. And yeah, no other questions coming in this afternoon. Hopefully that means you guys are pretty familiar with this forecast. It's pretty straightforward over the next 3 days or so, and then we start to notice more heat and humidity coming into play early next week. So yeah. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. I'm reporting live in Queensgate here at 19 at noon. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great weekend.